The hair industry is strange, man. Not just not just the black hair industry, but the industry in general is one of those unique industries where being the best in your field is not going to guarantee that you get the highest level of success. Um, as a hairstylist, being the best in your field doesn't guarantee that you're going to have any success for real, for real. Um, the truth of the matter is a lot of talented and amazing hairstylists who good standing behind that chair. They good at retwisting those locks. They good at curling. They good at sewing, doing sew-ins. They good at melting that lace. Um, and nobody knows because they're invisible. They're invisible to the internet. They're invisible to the marketplace. And most importantly, they're invisible to the people who would be willing to pay top dollar for that service. So um, tonight, what I want to talk about is the harsh reality that as a hairstylist, talent ain't it. Being talented is is not going to do it for you. It's not going to take you. It's not going to do the things that unfortunately a lot of people come into this industry and expect talent to do. Now, don't get it twisted. Is there a space for talent? Absolutely. You have to be good at doing hair if or you should strive to be good, I should say, at doing hair if you really want to make a career out of this. But the truth of the matter is, you may be even following somebody who you feel like you're a better stylist. You feel like your end result looks better. You compare your work to their work, and they may be more successful. They may have more clients. They may have more popularity online, and you wonder why. So, after we spend some time together, my goal is to make it so that you don't have to guess why that is. And more importantly, you can begin to connect with your dream client because I do believe that every client is not for every stylist, but there is a stylist for every single client and vice versa. So regardless of what it is that you want to specialize in or where you stand on as a stylist, there is a client out there for you. There's a dream client out there for you who would love to connect with you and love to pay what you're asking and love to be serviced by you. Tonight we're going to talk about some different ways to go about finding that client, right? So one of the first things that you want to do when you're building your client is when you're looking for your dream client and when you identifying who that person is and you want to get that person in your door and booking services over and over again, first thing you got to do is identify who that person is. When I say client, and I'm going to keep using the word client singular for the rest of this video, try your best to imagine your dream client as one person and not as a group of people. All right. What I mean by that is when you imagine your dream client, what do they look like? What is their personality like? What are their fears? What do they most value about getting their hairstyle done or whatever service it is, and just keep in mind who that person is. And the first thing that we want to do is we got to identify who that person is. You got to identify your target audience, and that audience, I want you to think of that person as a individual person. I want you to learn what that person does, what they like to do, how they like to spend their time, and all of those good things. Because every decision that we make throughout the rest of this process is going to be based on identifying who your target audience is. So I'll give you an example. At my salon, right, at Muse Beauty Suite, our target audience are women, black women, age 30 to 50, and we're looking for a specific interest in the experience of getting hair done, right? So we're looking for black women in that age group, and that's a wide net, but we narrow it down by looking for people who are experience driven. So one of our things that we stand on here at Muse Beauty Suite is making sure that every client receives an experience. It's not just hairstyles that we sell here. We sell a whole experience from the booking process to what you experience while you're in our salon to what you experience in anticipation to your next appointment. Everything that we do is about that experience. I could do a whole nother video on how how we do that. But the point is, we're looking for people who value that, right? Because we want to be connected with people who value that because we charge top dollar. We charge a very competitive rate. So we're looking for people who are willing to pay that competitive rate in exchange for some of the things that I just explained. So one of the things that I did in our first year in business that really helped us blow up and gain popularity and gain staff and really gain some traction, even though we were a fairly new salon, is instead of in my quest to become visible, right? Because after we identify who our target client is, the next step is we want to be visible. We want, after we identify the age group and the ethnicity and all those things, those particulars about our client, we want to be visible to that person. That's the next step. So in my quest to become visible, I learned really quickly that paying for the attention of my target client was going to be expensive. All right. It was our first few couple months in business. I believe at the time we only had 2 stylists, and we were very much in the early phase of spending a lot of money to create this space, and money starting to come in surely but slowly. So we couldn't afford. We didn't have a big ad budget. We couldn't take out articles in the newspaper. We couldn't afford to work with some of the big, more notable influencers that would have gotten us a lot of attention from multiple people. But what I was wise enough to understand is that we didn't want the attention. We didn't need the attention of everybody. We didn't need Wallow or Saw to post our salon for it to start getting active. Instead of trying to get the attention of our target audience, what I did was I put my brand where my target audience's attention was already was. So when it was time to start marketing, I had a very small budget, and I decided that influencers, especially local influencers, are super effective. But here's what I did. I looked for an overlap between what my brand stands for and my target audience. So again, my target audience is women 30 to 50 years old. They have a certain amount of disposable income. They really value the experience. They're the type of person who is not looking for a hair salon just to come to once or twice. They're looking for a real home to fit into their routine, to fit in between the hair and the nails and the Botox and the wax. They got a whole self-care system, and it's not optional for them, it's mandatory. That's what I'm looking for a target audience. So what does that person, where can I go that person is already paying attention to? So my first thought process was that person who I just described is also likely going to be very familiar with the food scene in my city, right? That person, that woman who I just described, also probably spends a lot of time at restaurants. They spend a lot of time in nightlife. They spend a lot of time doing things out in the city, events, other things that have to do with experiences over what they're actually paying for. Because that's what happens. When you go to a restaurant, you're paying for the experience. You're not paying for food. So my thought was, where can I put my brand where my target audience is already paying attention to, and nightlife and food experiences is what I came up with. So instead of connecting with the most popular influencers, I made it a point to connect with the influencers who were most notable in the food scene. People who were doing reviews of local restaurants, people who make reels, and you probably follow some of these people. You're looking for recommendations on where to go or what to eat. You travel into a new city, and a lot of us, first thing we do is go on social media, and we look for these unofficial tour guides to tell us what to do and where to go in these areas. So I started connecting with them, and by doing that, I knew that if I could get if I could get influencers who already had credibility in the food space to expose my brand to their audience, that it would be an instant connection. And it set off like wildfire. It started with just one influencer. That video started going viral. It went all over the place. And from there, I kept getting recommended to other food influencers who were willing to work with us and so on and so forth. And I mean, we had to be doing it once a month for like 10 straight months, just slapping them videos, going viral once a month, every month. And that was the start of Visible. That was the start of being visible for Muse Beauty Suite. And we did that with 2 stylists. And we were maybe had been in business up to that point for about 10 months. So, um, what I want to highlight about being visible is that the key of why that worked for us and why the same will work for you is it'll work if you focus on being visible by the people who you've identified as your target client. If you go on the internet every day and you just focus on being visible to everyone who will look, then you're actually talking to no one. So again, that first step is identify what your client looks like, not a group of people, right? Your target, your dream client. What does that person look like? What do they sound like? What do they fear? What are they looking for in an experience? What do they believe in as a person, right? And then once you identify those things, you want to put yourself in a position to be visible by that person. Now, once you become visible, you got to understand that just being visible is not enough, because that only allows people to see you. And I think that's where a lot of small businesses drop the ball at. You have a post that go viral, and maybe you follow a trend, or maybe you just use the right sound, or you post the right post at the right time, and the algorithm just starts shooting it all over the place, and you're like, oh man, this is it. You know, my following going up, I'm getting a lot of engagement, and it don't never turn into no money. And one of the reasons is because it's easy to be visible, but the next step is you want to be recognizable. Being visible is one thing, but having your core audience be able to see you, notice that you're there, and then also recognize your brand, that's when we taking it to the next level. That's when we closer to getting a person from liking a post on Instagram. Becoming recognizable is the first step into getting that person to be someone who books 12 to 15 appointments with you every single year and helps you pay your bills month in and month out. Being recognizable is the difference between getting paid and not getting paid. And we want to get paid. So, what does recognition look like after you've done all this work to become visible by your core audience? Being recognizable starts with being consistent. Imagine if you walking down the street and you walk down the same block every day, and every day you look different. Every day you look completely different. Your wardrobe is completely different. Your energy is completely different. It's going to be hard for people to pattern you and recognize you and categorize you as who you are and what you stand for and what type of person you are. The same thing that goes along with your brand. When you become visible, you have to give the people who are seeing you the opportunity to know and recognize your brand, which is separate from knowing and recognizing your work. All right? Let me give you a prime example. If I go to your page and I go to your hair page, and on your hair page, your business page, whatever you want to call it, if it just looked like a gallery of a bunch of hairstyles, all I see is a bunch of finished looks, that's cool when you show off your skill, but it tells me nothing about your brand. It gives me nothing to recognize your brand by in terms of what you stand for, what policies you have in place to protect your standards, what type of client your business is for, and what type of client your business is not for. All of those things should be easily recognizable based on how you carry yourself in every single touch point. So the same way that the same belief systems and principles and core values that your brand has, and you're portraying that on Instagram, and you're giving a certain feeling on Instagram, I should get that same feeling when I look at your Facebook, and the same feeling when I look at your TikTok, and the same feeling when I look at your website, and the same feeling when I receive a text message from your brand. Everything should supposed to be cohesive because it allows me to recognize and associate that feeling with your brand. Until somebody can associate a feeling with your brand is invisible. It's not recognizable and it's not memorable. being an amazingly skilled hairstylist, I'm sorry to break it to you, but it's not as rare as a lot of strong hairstylists may want to think it is. All right? Maybe in the past 15, 20, 30 years ago, before social media, it might have been hard to find somebody who was good at doing hair. But now, with the day and age of social media, I see so much good work all up and down my page, I'm almost numb to it. Like, seeing a lace closure melted to the highest level is I'm desensitized to that because I see it so much. What I see very little of is people allowing their brands to have personality, and that brand's personality being consistent and giving your target client the opportunity to know your brand's personality and fall in love and become comfortable and commit to your brand and not your work. If somebody commit to your work, especially as a salon owner, that is the number one way to get stuck standing behind this chair for the rest of your career. Because if you building your brand solely on the quality of your work, how can you ever get your client base to trust anybody else who you hire? How are you gonna fill up the rest of these chairs in here if everybody refuses to get their hair done by anybody else because the only reason why their hair is because of your hands? Right? So when we're talking about brand building and we're talking about building something that's sustainable and not gonna have you stuck in a place where you have to do hair sun up to sundown 5 days a week in order to pay your bills, it starts with identifying your target audience. Then we want to get visible. We want to make sure we're highly visible to that person who we're looking to attract. Once we get that person's attention, we want them to recognize us because it ain't gonna be just the first time. I don't care how amazing of a install you just did on that last service and how you line up the ring light and you got the picture at the perfect angle. I promise you that's not why people are gonna book you. People are gonna book you because you're consistent, because they know what your brand stands for, because they know what to expect. The same reason why McDonald's is so popular. Does McDonald's sell the best food? Absolutely not. Some people may argue McDonald's food is terrible. We all know it's unhealthy, but above all those things I just mentioned, it's hella consistent. It's gonna be the same price, you're gonna get the same taste, regardless of you in your hometown, whether you're on vacation, whether you're in another state. You know what to expect because the level of consistency and the level of recognition of McDonald's is so high that it's hard for them not to do well, right? So then that leads us to the next step, I should say, in this process, right? After you identify your target client, you're making sure you're visible to that person, right? That person can recognize who you are and why they should be interested in what you have to do. The last thing that you want to make sure is that your brand is approachable, because being seen and being recognized and being approachable is three different levels of commitment. A stranger walking down the street, I'm walking down the street, you walking down the street, I see you, you see me, we both visible, right? But when you see me often enough and I give you things to remember me by, that's when I become recognizable. That's when you start saying, okay, that's the guy that I always see when I'm on my way to work around this time at this date. But when it becomes approachable, that's when you that's when I start luring you in. That's the first step of you liking what I have to offer. That's the first step of you committing to 12 to 15 or 20 plus appointments at my establishment per year is once I make the brand something that you're willing to approach. Because I can get your attention and be recognizable as a crazy man walking down the street waving my hands in the air with no shirt on. You can see me and you can recognize me, but that ain't gonna make you wanna approach me. It's actually gonna make you probably wanna get the hell away from me. So when you put your brand in the position to be approachable, what that looks like is, especially from a hairstylist perspective or a hair salon owner's perspective, because this is such a personal business. This is such a personal business. Like, think about what we're doing here for a living. People come and sit in this chair for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours at a time. People come in here and I'll come in and open the shop, and the first client in sometimes be the last client out at the end of the day. In a hair salon, your clients spend a tremendous amount of time in your space. So to make a person feel comfortable making that commitment 12 to 15 times every single year, you're going to have to put some of your personality into your brand, and you're going to have to let that show. You can't hide behind your booking website and your policy and your 15, 20, 30, 50, 100,000 Instagram followers. You can't hide behind those things. You got to put your brand in a position that people can know, like, and trust it. So one of the things that I do at Muse Beauty Suite is, if you remember, earlier in this video, I talked about who our target audience is, and the type of women that we're looking for, and how much they value experience and how much they value consistency. So as much as you're going to see finished amazing hairstyles on the Muse Beauty Suite social media pages, you're also going to see the amazing strength of our culture and how our stylists get along with each other. You're also going to see how much energy and effort we put into actual natural hair health. Because by communicating those things to our target audience, who we identified before we even opened the salon, the fact that we value timeliness is going to be much more of a connecting point for our target audience than how good we are at doing hair. Because with our target audience, yes, they're looking for a strong hairstyle, but at the same time, they got to get out of here because they have to go to work. They got to pick their kids up. They got other responsibilities going on. That woman at that point in their life with that much disposable income is also going to have a bunch of responsibility. So as much as they value their hair looking good, more than that, they value that their appointment going to start on time. They value that you're not going to cancel their appointment the same day. A lot of salon owners, we say we want this level of client, but then we're not making our brands approachable by that same person who we swear up and down that we ready to service. So when you setting goals for your brand and you setting goals for your business, and this is something that you should be doing all the time. Your personal goals as a stylist are valid, but they should not overlap or interfere with your brand's goals. All right? Because if your goal is ultimately to have something sustainable, to have something where you giving other young ladies and gentlemen an opportunity to grow and learn inside of an environment that's healthy and beneficial, if your goal is to impact black hair culture and you love this culture as much as you say you do, if these hot combs, I don't know if y'all see them, if they out of frame or not, but if this stove curler just bring emotion and joy to your heart to know that people are still using these, right? If you say that you're that type of person, then you have a responsibility to the culture to make your brand approachable and make the things that you believe in cool. You gotta put the things that you believe in as a stylist and as an artist on Front Street, and connect with the people who connect with that. Because when you lead with that, you never find yourself second guessing the decision, right? I know for sure what we're looking for in terms of servicing our core audience and what they expect from us. So when I'm making financial decisions, when I'm making hiring decisions, when I'm making pricing decisions, deciding what services we should provide and which services we should not provide, and what days we should be open, and it always leads back to who is my target audience, and is what I'm doing making me more approachable or less approachable to that client base, right? The hair styling, that's just a vehicle. how good you are curling hair, installing hair. Don't get it twisted. It's important, but that's ultimately the vehicle that takes you to the goal. And your brand's goal should be to be as visible and as recognizable and as approachable as you can possibly be to the person who you say that your dream client is.